What's up, friends? I'm here with Loren. We're at Grid Life, and I'm so pumped because this is my first time I get to get behind the wheel of Brocky V2. But I want to just do a walk around with Loren. Well, we teamed up with Triton Engineering to have these trucks built. It's effectively Loren's brain of his last 20 years of off-road experience, Triton Engineering's brain, and then RTR came in with the design. So Loren has been fully involved in this every little bit. So we're gonna walk around and tell you guys a bit about what makes these trucks such game changers, especially for me, with going from Brocky from 5 years ago to this. It's like a whole new world, but for you even.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, everything that we've learned over the years and what you loved about Brocky and what made it an amazing vehicle of placing the motor in the front and keeping it a traditional four-link rear, but changing up the geometry a little bit, like all the little tweaks of front portals, which I can't wait for you guys to see that stuff. The fact that you can turn this from a short course car into a KOH car with unbolting the front suspension and changing.
Well, I mean, let's just start with that.
Yeah,
so
sure.
If you look right now,
like give them a perspective of how tall the one car is versus the
so
other.
you can see Brocky, right? So here's a stick, right? So here's Brocky. So this is my belly pan now. So this is the short course setup. So you can see traditional spindles, no portals on there. So now we'll go over here to Loren's truck, which this is like full KOH setup, right?
This is KOH setup.
So this is how we'll be attacking KOH. And you can see where my finger is on the stick and where the belly pan clearance is. And you can see the portals here. So basically the axle comes in here straight, but then there's gears. 74 weld made these portal boxes, and the hub grabs down at the bottom. So you can see right where the hubs are. So what does that give us? 3-4 inches?
4.5 gives you 4.5 inches, and then the gear reduction also allows you to run, lighter drivetrain parts as well because of the gear reduction. So you're taking some of the stress off the rest of the drivetrain, which is some of the things we fight with an all-wheel drive vehicle. So instead of a big Series 30, that we have to run over there, an RCV Series 30, we can run a 934, which is substantially smaller, a smaller axle shaft, and the gear reduction load gets put out at the wheel end instead of through the drivetrain. So
yeah,
there's give and take that make everything better both ways for certain situations. And we built these Ultra4 trucks to do everything. We want to go race in the desert. We want to go race at Grandin. We want to go rock crawl at KOH. And you give and take, and you make them do the best you can at all of those things. Well, if we can make a vehicle and make some changes to it and make it better in short course or better in the rocks with the portal setup, it's giving us a benefit.
Yeah, because really all we're changing. So what exactly changes when we go from King of the Hammers or more traditional Ultra4 type race to short course?
So everything unbolts from the pivot points out. So it's new tie rods, upper and lower A-arms, spindle, axle shaft, everything unbolts. The shocks actually bolt up to the lower A-arms. We make a spring change, and then everything bolts back together. We could literally unbolt at the pivot points and the shocks, and a whole corner comes off, and a whole corner goes right back
So
on.
we're using the same Fox coilover and bypass.
Yep.
For desert
Yep.
and for short course.
Yep. At some point, we'll go to a little bit smaller bypass shock for more specific short course tune, as we continue to dial in the evolution of these trucks for short course stuff. But yeah, right now everything interchanges, bolts right in. And same on both trucks. You can unbolt a corner off of this truck and put it on that truck.
Yeah.
And that's what we've been trying to get to forever.
Sure.
Save parts.
Because we've had a trailer full of spares for his truck, my truck, where's this, where's that. And so similar to what we have with Chelsea and Drift, like everything is interchangeable. So this is huge. And like Igor and Triton, like just the attention to detail and the beauty of their work is amazing. Okay, so that's portals. We talked about suspension. So everything's same, right? We got the same Warren winch. We got the same setup in the front.
Yep.
And then you can see the difference here in the arms a bit.
So you're 2 inches wider out here, so the portal, you're sucking everything.
Ah, yeah.
Yep. So we had, Kibby Tech built us some badass billet upper A-arms. We love Kibby.
Yeah.
Built the Ranger.
Yeah.
And then we had to do a little bit different A-arm. The spindle as a fabricated spindle instead of a billet 74 weld portal, different tie rod, and all that stuff just swaps into there.
And then for short course versus desert, we'll run a spool in the front diff in the desert.
No. Are we talking about our cool billet tube works that we got in here or no?
Is that secret? Are we keeping our mouth shut?
I mean, no, not at all. I mean, Jason's awesome over at Tube Works. We had him build one of his cool billet differentials, so it's a solid chunk of aluminum.
Yeah.
And then his locker that they've been running for a while now had the ability to turn into a one-way. So that's the other thing with four-wheel drive and all-wheel drive trucks is when there's the opportunity to disconnect the front from the back, it just makes the vehicle so much better. Yeah. And so that's what this will allow us to do. The bad part is if we ever need to back up in four-wheel drive, we don't have a front end.
Right.
But now we can set brake bias. We can actually set the truck up
because it's not all binded together.
Like a Pro 4, because
that's going to be a game changer.
Yep. If you ever watched like slow-mo videos of our car going through the desert at Marceau shock tuning, you can actually see the front tire stop and go backwards for a second because it has nowhere to go and it binds into the rear drivetrain and hikes up the back of the car.
Interesting.
Because everything's at the transfer case, everything hits and beats each other up.
Oh, this is pretty. So if you look through here, you can see our exhaust is covered in Inconel. It's really hard to see from any other view, but you can see those guys right there. So that's to keep the heat in. We both have burnt our foot in the past with our previous trucks. Loren like literally has like a 1/4 inch out of his heel from a race that he was just literally cooking his foot, but he had to finish the race. The one other thing you'll notice too about our wheels this year is how it's effectively almost like a front wheel drive offset. Like we had a little bit of dish last year, but these are a little bit more front. So I've got the RTR Aero 7, or sorry, Tech 7 bead locks. And then Loren's got the centerline hammers on his truck. Coming to the back, obviously we got our fuel safe. How large is our cell now?
So we'll have 55 gallons usable. So Brocky has 35. So we almost doubled your fuel.
Because I was always having to stop when you weren't.
Yeah, you'd have to stop at pit 1 at KOH just to get into the main pits. So that's not a problem anymore. You know, a couple people have they've seen the car with the Bronco tops on them and have kind of questioned how we're going to fuel them.
Yeah.
You know, spare tire sits in here, but you can see where I'm standing right here. It's not hard to stab.
Just hit it right in.
You just stab in and
perfect.
I think maybe from the side people have kind of wanted to know how we were planning on doing it.
Yeah. So Fuel Safe made us this cell. Look at this thing. It's so perfectly set and like such well balanced in front of the axles, middle of the truck. Like that's one of the most beautiful fuel cells I've ever seen.
Right, and can you see like how even back in here where the upper links travel up inside?
Oh yeah, wow.
Just to create that, you know, a little bit more fuel cell
clearance,
volume. Clearance, everything's. That's the beauty of Igor and Triton and having a whole car. I mean, down to the nuts and bolts drawn in cabin, oil tank drawn in cabin, battery drawn in cabin. Everything can be placed so perfectly and exactly, you know, and tolerances are tight, but everything's working together in its place. And like I'm
just how you maximize everything.
Right, where before when we build an Ultra4 truck, we throw all this stuff on a chassis table and we're like, hey, that motor fits there, or like this oil tank kind of fits there, this square fuel cell kind of fits in this spot, and then you just end up with this treehouse of, okay, we need more room here. Like all this was in a computer in CAD before a single tube was put on the chassis table. That's the difference.
It's sick. Optimos, so we've got 2 Optimos. There's a switch inside where you can use both of them or switch one to the other. These are their deep cycle yellow tops, which we love these batteries. This is the first time I've seen these canisters. They're huge.
Yeah, I mean these are trophy truck shocks. These are big boy stuff. I mean, I've been beating on this truck in the desert trying to get anything hot on the shocks.
It's been good.
I can't. I got a couple hundred miles in both these trucks now. You should see how deep the ruts in the wash are for me just. 15-mile round trips.
Yeah, Loren's been doing. How long have you been doing testing?
About a month now.
Yeah, so Loren's been doing. I'm super grateful to have a teammate that knows obviously what we need, but that you know, our shop in Farmington, we have an area to go play. So he's been beating up the truck and like he's brought it to me closely set up. So I can't wait to feel it. I was looking at this thing. It just looks unbelievable. It's about 800 pounds lighter than Brocky. Or Brocky 1. This is Brocky V2, and it's about 800 pounds lighter. It's got about 100 horsepower and about 100 more foot-pounds of torque. So
we put it on the scales right next to my single-seat truck, and what I tell you, we were within like 20 pounds of my single-seat truck, which I thought was like and I'm sorry, 20 pounds lighter than my single
it's
seater.
lighter.
Yeah, it was 20 pounds lighter.
Wow, so Loren has a single seat truck that basically the motor is like right next to the passenger seat, and that's what he's been racing recently. It's pretty sick. Wow, it's 20 pounds lighter?
Yeah, 20 pounds lighter.
Woo!
One more last thing is like the cooling in here. Like that's some of the things that we fought in some of the older trucks is really having enough cooling. And CBR has some really cool Italian technology in the radiators that the fins are a little bit smaller and tighter. And these cores actually come out of Italy from CBR.
Oh, interesting.
All brushless small fans. So this is substantially better cooling than anything we've ever had on our trucks before. The radiator's 38 by 22, so we've got.
It's a big boy.
Yeah, we've got a couple more inches of width and a couple more inches of height than what we've had before. I just, you know, with more horsepower, we need more cooling.
Sure,
definitely important.
Yeah, I mean, just look at these trailing arms. So we use the same trailing arms for short course, and that's all. That also, the rear stays the same. You just different ride height.
Yep, exactly.
So just send it to preload.
Yep,
that's it.
Yep. Or go to a shorter spring, keep the same amount of spring rate to keep your ride height, but just drop it down a little bit. Yep.
All right, moving into the cockpit. So you can see these are Recaro Pro Racer ORVs that Loren and I helped Recaro develop. Got some really epic foam technology that will save your ass literally and figuratively. But all business, right? So you can see Motec. So I've got my dash for all my vitals, and then we've got Eric, my co-dog, has his vitals, and then you can just simply scroll through this to see all the different things you want. I mean, we've got data for days, brake, I mean, everything. I got brake bias, I got brake percentage, we've got steering angle. I mean, we've got a lot of data so that we can, you know, learn from each other, and also, you know what we need to do if there's any issues. Of course, working with Project X. So I've got the Series X HP 70s here, which are like unbelievable, blinding light.
The power's unreal.
It's crazy. And so yeah, so that's about that on this thing. Let's pop the hood on yours.
One of the things, like you were talking about, all the data and the capability of the Motec and everything, and the reason that we went through all of that to put steering angle and brake pressures and all these sensors, GPS, yaw of the vehicle, because working with Fox, and you know, one of the cool technologies that they've had with Raptor, you know, with Razor, with all that stuff, is the live valve shock technology. They've integrated that into 1 or 2 trophy trucks, but to me, I can see where it's helpful in a trophy truck, but for us, when we're out desert racing and rock crawling, it's a complete game changer. And so that's one of the things we're working towards with Fox, is to put live valve shock technology on these trucks. So we can literally flip a switch from going 120 in the desert through 3-foot bumps to rock crawl, super squishy, soft, nice. And the computer will even think us, you know, do that for us. It'll do that math and say, you know, you're at a slower speed now, I'm going to make it nice and cushy and soft for you. And one of the buttons on the steering wheel is even an oh shit button. You come into a G out too hard and you want more stiffness, you grab that button, or your co-driver even drives that button.
Oh, he sees it,
and boom, he hits full stuff and keeps the truck from bottoming out and yard selling out in the desert.
That's so sick. Yeah, I forgot to mention that.
The technology.
So we're working towards that. Like, Fox has it, we don't have it yet, but we set the trucks up so that when it's all there and we can integrate it, which hopefully will be early next year.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's pop the hood off, show everybody what's under this hot rod.
We might have to get under.
Damn!
So I'm kind of back to that a little bit. All this stuff was placed in CAD and drawn in CAD. It's tight, but everything has its place. So, you know, exactly where it's going, making sure everything works together and does what it's doing. And it's really amazing to see everything turn out the way this is. Jeff Kinner been building, you know, My Race Motors for years. We went to him, told him what the project is, what we were doing. I was really happy with the D3, which is a Windsor-based small block Ford, but for racing, and they did a lot of this for trophy trucks. I think some of it came from NASCAR as well. Took a tall deck, so adding some cubic inches, so we can now get 460 cubic inches out of this motor, and still keep it a small block. So it's still a little bit smaller, not the size of a big block. We get just shy of 800 horsepower out of it. One of the things you'll see the trophy trucks, they have the big A stack that the air filter would be sitting, you know, about here for height.
Yeah.
With 4-wheel drive and a front differential down there and placement, we needed to be able to go to, you know, one of these manifold styles with like an LS style throttle body. The other big thing about that is we can put the air filter in the cab.
Yeah.
It's keeping clean air all the time. We race in Oklahoma where we sink into swamps.
Yeah.
Like, we need clean air in the cab, and it was really important. Wilson Manifold built us these awesome billet manifolds.
Full billet, that thing is nasty.
It's wild.
K&N oil filter, that's our dry sump tank. So there's a 460 cubic inch, basically Ford Performance D motor, which is, I used to actually run a D motor in FD. It was a 436. And then obviously we're working with Jeff, like Loren mentioned, but we got what, power steering, cooler, oil
oil cooler, CBR. This is kind of one of the kind of cool things that you won't see very often. So power steering solutions, and Igor actually designs and builds these with Triton, and he recommended that we do this. So our reservoir and our cooler with the fan is all built into one right here.
Sick.
CAD. So normally you've got,
rather than having a reservoir standalone,
standalone, it's all built into one. Cools in here. We've got temperature sensors. We've got steering pressure sensors to monitor pressure spikes. Like the capability of all this being able to monitor is so rad.
And you can see headers all the way up to the headers. There's Inconel. I mean, we definitely went all in on these hot rods, and I'll show you what Loren was talking about with where the air filter terminates. So basically, comes in from the intake manifold in here, boom, right there. So we got the K&N, so we got a standard K&N filter wrapped with a pre-filter, foam pre-filter, and this is like the magic recipe for what we do. You know, we get zero dirt in anywhere, and you know, we'll be running, you know, if you know Loren's behind me, I mean, he's gonna get a ton of dust all over him. But we got to have the motors still running clean. So I am so damn pumped for these things, but I mean, it's just a beauty.
Let's check out the rear axle housing and the inverted rear fork links. A lot of that stuff that people may not necessarily always see. And so we're trying a couple different things. You can see a high pinion in the back of your truck versus we just put a low pinion in the back of my truck. So trucks were built to be able to do both of those things.
So you're doing that right now as a test, a back-to-back test?
As a test. So I had a high pinion in this truck, put 150 miles on it, trying to break it. I was unsuccessful, which is exciting for me because my drive shaft failures have all been due to me wanting a low pinion. So we sent that off to have it prepped, inspected, gears Magnaflux, threw one of the low pinions in here for now to
you just test it back to back, basically?
Yep,
interesting.
Exactly.
Cool.
A ton of the IFS parts and that stuff came from Spider Track. So we sent a CAD drawing, Igor sent a CAD drawing to Tom at Spider Tracks and said, and he built everything on here. Took the housing, put all the trussing on it, put the blink brackets on it, and fixtured it. So now we have these ones that are fixtured. We have the ones that are going in, you know, other cool Bronco builds that we may be building.
Hint.
That will unbolt and bolt right in here. And so it's all fixtured.
So we have like our own standard now.
Exactly. And we just ordered another one. They glue it together, weld it for us, and it's ready to go. So, you know, everything big 45 spine gun drilled shafts. Like you're never gonna break one of these axle shafts. All 300M, like the strength.
I'm not gonna break one. Are you gonna break one?
I've never broke one yet. I've been trying for years and years, and that is one thing I have never managed to do.
Sick.
So
yeah, this is just, man, you could just, I'm trying to show you guys the best I can all the beauty of this thing, but the difference, also one thing to mention too, is this has the transfer case in it.
Yes.
The selectable Atlas, basically.
Right, set up for the rocks.
Yep, and then my truck right now has a SCS case.
Correct.
Which is basically what they run in monster trucks. And so you just set the gear that you want, and it's just full-time four-wheel drive. So for short course, we're not gonna be getting out, you know, changing into low range. So again, we're doing some back-to-back testing with the trucks, which is another awesome reason to have two identical trucks in a team like we have, because you can learn a lot quicker. So really, really rad.
And you can see, like, a lot of people have asked about the inverted upper forelinks, and that stuff you see in Pro 4, and I've seen 1 or 2 other Ultra4 trucks that are doing that. It's a little bit more complicated to design, but you can see we get a little bit more fuel capacity down there without the upper links coming through.
Yeah.
And you can, you know, geometry that we wanted specifically for what we're doing gives us a little bit of changes there. So
yeah,
it's really neat. All J reel drive shafts, so those are big 1480 U joints. So old Brocky had a 1350 U joint. So this is
those are big boy U joint stuff. Jeez.
Yeah.
Sick, man. Well, I'm glad to have shared this with you guys. We're getting a little bit of rain. It's going to pass, and I get to get behind the wheel. There's a little rally course here, so we're just going to shake it down a bit. You know, Loren's been shaking them down, but he really wanted me to get some seat time before we go to Sturgis in a couple weeks, and I can't wait to get behind the wheel of it. So, thank you for getting these things set up. It's been a big process, and he's been just leading it up for the team and letting me focus on the things that I focus on for us, and it's been awesome. So, I showed you 2 badass trucks for me to drive. Thanks, friend.
Yep.